I feel alive.
Welcome to the ADVMoto Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Slabaugh, and this is our second ever episode of the podcast, and it's jam-packed with awesome guests and topics. We're going to get started off by talking about weekend warriors. What is a weekend warrior, with special guest Anna Baklund. And then we're going to hear a rider story from Eric Hall from XLADV. He's going to talk about some of his adventures riding down in Baja, California. And then we're going to talk comms with David Kuck of UClear Digital. And we're going to wrap it up by giving you a preview of what's coming up in the September-October issue. Let's go. So we're going to talk about the weekend warrior today, and I'm joined with us again by Justin and Kyra, co-managing editors of ADVMoto Magazine, and our special guest, Anna Baklund. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, guys. Hello again.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is like, I like that our chats are growing. It's like the more the merrier kind of style. So, yeah. So let's just start off about. We'll start with Anna. When someone says weekend warrior, what does that conjure up in your mind's eye?
For me, I think it means somebody that's got to cram riding or adventure, whatever it might be, into 2 days. So my days are Saturday and Sunday, and then I work. I have a normal job. I work, 7 to 3:30, Monday through Friday, and can only ride on the weekends.
Yeah.
And you do a lot of it.
Yeah. How about you guys?
Well, we don't have a normal job, so I agree with her in the sense that it has to be, when you have 2 days off, you want to take advantage of it and go do the things you've been thinking about doing all week long.
Well, not everybody has the time and the space to go on some long distance multi-week trip, and it doesn't mean that you don't get to ride. It just means that you get to find your local haunts and literally get in as many miles as possible and then make it back to your doorstep before you have to go to work.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm in a situation where I have 2 kids, and so during the weekdays, usually it's a very regimented schedule. The kids are on a schedule. They have to get their baths on certain times, and they go to sleep at certain times, and they even poop at certain times usually. But yeah, squeezing a ride in there is challenging, and for example, just this past week we had went on a camping trip that we had planned, and one of the things, and I've always heard other people do this, and I was like, it seems kind of silly. Why wouldn't you travel with your family? But my wife and kids, they went in the car, and it was a couple hours from our house, and I rode the bike, and got to have some helmet time, and just be away from all the noise and ride up there. And that was you take kind of one of those things where I think you become an opportunist, where you take advantage of every opportunity that comes up to ride.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Especially with 2 at home.
That's how I picture having a real job. It's you're constantly busy, and then you finally have 2 seconds to yourself, and you're like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, Anna, we've been following what you do on social for a while now, and I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a weekend where you don't go and ride. So
I ride 52 weeks a year, rain, shine, snow. It's at least 1 day, if not 2, sometimes 2.5, if I can get off early on a Friday. But I also have other hobbies as well, and I kind of just jam that into the weekend warrior thing as well. So,
what else do you like to do?
I've tried snow biking. I tried whitewater kayaking for the first time this weekend. I've started downhill mountain biking, which is, oh my God, it's so much fun.
That seems ridiculous.
Yeah, and then I ride dirt bike and ADV bike and street bike. There's not enough time, and even in if I didn't work, there still wouldn't be enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. What do you have in your garage?
Like my bikes?
Yeah.
I've got a 350 EXCF, I've got a 690 Enduro, and I've got a Triumph Daytona 675.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a full garage. Right here is a picture of boyfriend's snow bike, and
yeah, the snow bike. Oh, Jess has been wanting to do that forever.
Yeah, I've only had the opportunity to ride a snow bike once, and it's not easy. It is not an easy.
Yeah.
Like, it's not an easy activity. I was very surprised. I thought it would be like.
Oh yeah, it's on a sled, whatever.
It's a dirt bike with a tractor, but
yeah.
No, not easy.
There has to be a range for it to be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
For context, you're in Washington, right?
Yeah, so I'm kind of on the border of Washington, Oregon, so I spend a lot of time in those two states, but it's not uncommon for me to travel up to 9-10 hours to go ride somewhere for the weekend.
That's awesome. That's serious week warrior stuff right there.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a common location for you to go ride on the weekends? Like, where do you ride the most? Like Gifford or?
So, you guys are not gonna like this. I don't believe in geotagging. I will never tell you where I'm at. I don't believe in drawing attention to an area that maybe can't handle the influx. You know, if I put it out there, everyone's gonna want to go do it, and I've seen the trails deteriorate and get hammered from overexposure. Yeah. So what I encourage everybody to do is dig in, grab a map, take a look at what's around you, look at the motor vehicle use maps and go explore. That's the best part. You feel like Lewis and Clark if you just go explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot to explore out where you are. I mean, I spent most of my life surfing, and I feel the same way about telling people where. I spent most of my life surfing in the Northwest, and so I feel very similar about telling people where to surf up there, or the fact that I won't tell anyone where to surf up there.
Yeah, I mean, like if people private message me, if I know that they're going to help with maintenance, if I know that they're going to recreate responsibly, like I'm happy to give them some pointers, point them in the right direction for a good ride.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I'm at with it. But yeah, I spend a lot of time in the Pacific Northwest riding.
There's a lot out there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's
figure it out.
Yeah. So touching on that, you mentioned geotagging, Anna, and one of the things I wanted to talk about today was technology and the Weekend Warrior and how that's kind of changed it. I mean, I'm thinking like on personal examples. We're so saturated with information and emails nowadays, and I think it's like, you talk about like guarding your time and like finding those hours that you can get away or days that you can get away. Yeah, I don't know what role, just like off the top of your head, would you say that technology has played in kind of your Weekend Warrior lifestyle?
I mean, technology has hurt some of my adventures. The places that I used to love going are very, very busy due to being advertised. But technology has also made things easier for me, right? Like I can go out on the U.S. Forest Service website and pull up the motor vehicle use map. I don't have to go to the ranger station and talk to them. I can pull up their website, see, oh, there's a fire ban, and here's the trail map. And so in that regard, technology's been fantastic, really, really helpful.
Do you go analog and do like paper maps and kind of like go by rumor, or do you use GPS at all or any sort of navigational apps? I'm not saying what you use, but like.
and that's so. I'm kind of, I guess I'm old school. Like I look at paper maps and the motor vehicle use maps for BLM, the DNR, state land, federal land, and like I study it and I study the topography. It's rare that I use like somebody's GPX tracks. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in buying somebody else's adventure. I'm gonna go have my own.
Yeah.
So I geek out. Like I probably spend 4 to 6 hours a week researching my route, the trails I want to take, getting on Google Earth, checking out if there's any washouts. Like, I love that. I know not everybody loves that, but I really love that.
I think that's like the treasure map of our time, or at least for the adventure motorcyclists. Like, it's getting to, count the paces, find those like tiny roadways and these offshoots. I know Justin used to do that with surfing, is like he'd check Google Earth or Google Maps and like look at the satellite view and just be like, okay, there's a picture of a break right here. Let's see if we can find a way into that.
Yeah, a lot of dead weekends. It's different. I always tell people the difference between motorcycles and surfing, though, is that your motorcycle, for the most part, you always get to ride it, whereas your surfing, you may or may not get to ride it.
No.
So
we ride motorcycles.
Yeah, motorcycles seem to be a little more practical.
Sure. Yeah, that was I like that the planning aspect is exciting. I know there was I've used the Rever app in the past, and they were had their Butler maps synced with, was embedded in the map, which was really cool because you could say, okay, I have like 3 hours today or 6 hours today, and it's like, let's pick a yellow road on Butler maps that I've never ridden before, and I like that aspect of it because it's like, oftentimes there's so much more riding within 100 miles of you than you realize, and so that exploration factor is fun, kind of like picking a direction. And that's another thing with technology. I mean, you can get lost nowadays and pretty much get yourself out of almost any situation, if you want it, if you wanted to, it's there. And another aspect of it too, I think, is the, for when you're out and about and you have somebody who cares about you back home, they have GPS trackers now that can send text messages or pings or whatever via satellite, which is, it's a nice peace of mind, when you have someone who's worried about you back back at home.
When you got 2 kids and your wife at home.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Honestly, my mom worries about me all the time, and I don't have one of those spot trackers, and it's not uncommon for me to go do an ADV ride by myself. But she probably worries the most.
Yeah. I can see that. My mom is super indifferent.
Have you ever had any rides that went longer than you anticipated? Like, did you like getting lost and being stuck overnight, that sort of thing?
I've never been stuck overnight. I've been stuck, out until 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. But those times I've been with a partner, so it hasn't been terrible. But there's been times where I've encountered snow on an ADV ride, and like, I can't turn around. I'm not going to make it to the gas station, so I either plow through or I run out of gas in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, I guess so. You do sleep there. Interesting.
Yeah, so I think that technology for safety purposes is huge.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I
Yeah,
think it makes it more accessible for people who would otherwise be slightly hesitant. And there's good reason to be. So it's like, I think that gives people a little bit more access.
That's that whole, plan ahead thing. Plan ahead, plan for the worst case scenario. Hopefully you never have to use your tracker. Hopefully you never have to push the magic button. But I also think adventure doesn't have to be like way out in the woods doing the gnarliest of the gnar. It can just be a cruise, down the coast. That's adventure. As long as you're having fun and exploring, and I think that's adventure.
Yeah. Yeah,
I definitely think it's a subjective thing, and I think a lot of people downplay other people's adventures, because that's not, to me, that's not an adventure. Well, then for you, it wouldn't have been an adventure. You go do something else. But
and that goes back to the idea that you only have a couple of days to do it. So
yeah,
I mean, for most people that have a job, you can't just take off for 6 weeks and go somewhere and do something. You have to kind of moderate your time a little bit better. So we have a friend up there in the Northwest, actually on the Olympic Peninsula, who spends a great deal of his time just wandering Forest Service roads and old logging roads and you name it, and he's sort of mentally mapped them all out in his head. He's also like you, he doesn't use a GPS. I don't even think he knows.
He just literally just rides out. He's lived there his whole life.
Yeah.
So he and his brother just like leave their property and then just they've heard of something. They found these trails when they were kids, and then they just go deeper and deeper and deeper each time.
But they only have a couple of days at a time. They've both got normal
And
gigs and kids. So you gotta,
So
yeah.
I don't have kids. I don't really have a whole lot of responsibility. We live in a 650 square foot apartment attached to a shop. So there's no cleaning, there's no maintenance, there's no nothing. We can just up and go.
Yeah.
The one GPS thing I do use is a Trail Tech Voyager Pro, and the way I use it, I don't use it to find my route. I use it to get out.
Yeah.
So it leaves my trail in, and then I can follow the same trail out if I get turned around.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use that too.
Yeah.
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 But like you said, I think adventure is subjective, and everybody is so stoked on the round the world thing and living nomadically and having these cool remote jobs, and it's not doable for all of us.
No.
It's
I mean, it's great to think about. It's like a nice daydream, but like I think people end up not doing a thing because they think that there's only one way to do it, and then they're too intimidated, or it's not approachable for them, so then they just do nothing, and that's too bad.
Yeah, well,
they don't have the right bike.
Yeah. Oh God, that's a whole nother segment.
That's a whole other
I know. That's another episode.
Well, we've talked about at length, Nathan. We've talked about the idea that like sometimes being nomadic, like you were saying, Anna, it's wonderful right up until the point that you kind of quit moving, and then you're just homeless. Yeah. And
that's us, by the way. That's what we've done.
Yeah, that's what's happened to us a number of times, and I'm definitely envious of the weekend warrior thing to a degree, because there is structure to both your weekdays and your weekends, whatever those might be, whether it's a Monday, Tuesday, or if it's a normal traditional weekend.
And actually, it's pragmatic and effective, because all right, you're nailing down like these segments of these like sections of places that, okay, I've been here, so I'm going to try here next time, and I've kind of gone this direction, so now I can go that direction. And like some people don't have to use that, but you at least then know, like, I've already been here and I can go 20 miles, so this is where I'm going to go next. Yeah. Wandering aimlessly, it's aimless, I guess.
So who do you ride with typically? Your significant other, your friends? Do you ride like with a big group? Is it like, how does that work for you, like on a normal weekend?
On a normal weekend, like I've got a very small group. You really need to trust who you're riding with. You need to know that they have your back. They need to understand how you ride, kind of the etiquette of how you ride. You need to be able to trust them. So I've got a small clique. I mainly ride with my boyfriend. He's been riding dirt bikes for 30 years. But he's also gotten into the ADV riding and camping off the bike. He just bought a 1290 Super Adventure, so we're having lots of fun with that. And then I've got a girlfriend that I really, really enjoy with riding in Oregon area. She's a mountain biker turned moto, and it's really fun to hobby switch with her. Yeah, so small groups. I've got, I ride with the group that I do trail maintenance with fairly regularly up in Washington.
That's cool.
I ride occasionally with my mom. I taught her how to ride a couple years ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, learning at 56.
That's very cool.
That is cool.
So anybody can do it.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, I said it's inspiring.
Yeah.
And she broke her arm her second ride out ever, shattered her forearm, and was just bummed that she couldn't finish the season riding. She got back on the bike and is still riding, and she just took her bike back. I'd been keeping it for her, and she's out riding at my dad's friend's property and scooting around. She's been on quad trails and dirt roads. Her first ride out, she did 150 miles on gravel and dirt.
Wow. Good for her.
Yeah. So weekend warriors, old, young, it doesn't matter. Just as long as you're enjoying life and enjoying what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you guys? This is to everybody. Like, what do you think the perception is in the industry? You know, because I feel like there's not. I don't know. I mean, you look at the marketing, and you know, of motorcycles right now, and it feels. I don't know what's the right way to put it. It doesn't feel like it acknowledges the weekend warrior ADV segment. Does that make sense?
Like they're really trying to speak to like, go and pursue your dreams and drop everything and go around the world. Or, you know, I mean, the other stuff is just the on-road, like either ride a sport bike or ride a cruiser and maybe go to Starbucks is the other perception of the ADV motorcyclist.
Well, I think I feel like the marketing is like souping up your bike, you know, to the max and then never riding it anywhere, you know, rather than finding a bike that you love and just riding it everywhere as much as you possibly can when you can sneak away. You know, I don't know. I would love to see more marketing around that, you know, and showing the romance of that personally. But I don't know. What do you guys feel?
So I feel like there's with motorcycles, off-road motorcycles right now, it's either targeting the hard enduro bros who like you have to get this bike so you can ride the gnarliest to the gnar or whatever. That's not a majority of us. I mean, I dirt bike, I tackle tough trails, but I'm not Jarvis. Most of us aren't Jarvis. And I also, you know, I'm not buying a 1250 GSA and tricking it out and doing wheelies like Chris Birch either. I don't know. It's too extreme. It like you said, you know, it doesn't target the middle.
The average person.
And the majority of us are in the middle. What do you think, Kyra?
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with that. Especially, I'm someone who's like on average or quite below average in size and height. So things aren't accessible to me already in regards to like, especially the ADV community and market. But, you know, it really does. It's like they try to advertise to the persona you think you'd like to be, but reality is that they don't really tell you the practical use of the machines that they have. And so, again, I think it circles back to that too high expectations and then the lack of approachability. And so people think that they can't use their KTM to just like go jam on some trails, or if they're not riding like a badass, that they'll be looked at differently maybe, or they won't, you know, like they're any less than the adventure that we would see them as, people like us, or just like stoked that they're actually going and getting it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The marketing ploys that are being implemented now are very telling of a time when like an overconsumption of content is the norm. Like people, you know, you browse past those wheelie videos and all that stuff. You're just like, whatever, another dope wheelie, another drifting Harley Davidson, like whatever. Like when we're so jaded about that stuff, it's like I think we've seen enough of it, and we need to maybe go back to a little bit more, you know, common sense advertising. Like, hey, this is a really good bike if you just want to, like, I don't know, take a week-long trip to visit your aunt and uncle in wherever, and it would get you there and it'll get you back and you can have fun along the way.
Yeah.
But, you know, pragmatism doesn't sell, not very well at least.
Like,
it sells Volvos.
A V-Strom and, you know, go up to Alaska, it has to be the fanciest of the fancy big bikes. It can't be something just that you can afford and make it happen.
Yeah, and that should be you never make it.
Right.
Yeah. So I kind of want to leave. We're wrapping up our segment here. Let's leave people with some tips on like how to become a better weekend warrior. One for me at least, one that has come to mind is setting aside a time to ride, because I am guilty of this myself, that if I don't say, I'm going to leave by this, on, Friday night or Saturday morning at this time, there's like 10 other things to do around the house that will come up, and it's like, oh, I got to do this thing or whatever. And so I find like setting aside and making time, it will contribute to your weekend warrior satisfaction, I would say. Yeah.
Well, and making it easier. Have a bug out stash, right? So like for camping, I have a camping tote. I can be gone in 5 minutes for the weekend. I have everything I need to camp in that tote. I can load my bike in 5 minutes. I can bug out super fast. Setting yourself up for success is huge. Prepping ahead of time, being organized. When you get home, put all your stuff away. Clean it and put it away so that it's easy to grab the next time you want to go.
Yeah, that's great.
That's awesome.
I also I think that what you were talking about with kind of diving into maps and BLM information like that
ahead of time.
That always, for me, whether it's motorcycles or surfing or anything, I probably overthink the stuff only because I want to know all the information, and so I build like a little plan in my head, and then whether it happens or not, it doesn't matter. But at least it gets me excited throughout the week to go do that. I'm like, I want to see where this goes, and that looks like a cool area, and maybe there's this, and if I have all that sort of plotted out, even if I only get to a third of it, at least I'm like stoked all week long, like ready to go. That's my tip. Yeah. Pro tip.
I don't know if ours counts together. We're almost out, so I don't want to waste time. Mine would be make sure your bike runs
good
all the time.
So I blew out both fork seals this weekend, out of state, 9 hours away. Make sure you do your maintenance and bring tools and supplies.
Oh yeah. Learn from our mistakes.
Yes.
Yep. Gaff tape goes a long way.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh man. Well, thank you so much, Anna, for being part of this and coming on the podcast. If people want to find you, you had mentioned social. Where can they find you on the internet if they want to see some of your? Because you have amazing photography, by the way. Your pictures, and it makes me want to get out because you've done some rides in my neck of the woods here in the inland Northwest, over in Idaho, and it's a beautiful area of the country, and seeing your pictures always inspires me. So where can people find you online?
Yeah, on Instagram at Anna Baklund. Pretty simple. Funny thing about photography, 95% of it is iPhone shot. So I'm a weekend warrior. I don't have a fancy camera. I have a phone. I pull it out of my pocket. I take a picture. That's it.
The best camera is the one in your hand.
Yeah,
exactly.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Exactly. Yeah, this was fun, guys. Thanks for chatting.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Glad to have you. All right, take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So in our last episode 1, we heard from Matt Wilson about his and his wife Brady's adventures down on their way to Ushuaia and Terra del Fuego, and how sometimes the unexpected brings the best adventures. This week we're going to hear from Eric Hall, and he's going to tell us about some of his unexpected adventures in Baja. So I'm here with Eric Hall, senior editor at XLADV.com, and welcome to the podcast, Eric.
Thanks, Nathan. It's good to be here with you.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you. So in this segment, as your listeners know, we've been just listening to stories about rides, or just like it could be best or worst any time that you've been out, on an ADV ride. And Eric has a pretty incredible story that takes place just south of the border here in the United States. Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Okay, so this is a good story. It's a good story for so many reasons. One, it was my first time to Baja, and I was definitely a noob, and I didn't really know how to ride as well as I do now. And so, everything was tough, and I think I lost like 10 pounds that week, just because I was working so hard on the bike. because I didn't know how to ride. And I was so exhausted. But also, it's just, I've been down to Baja so many times now, I can't even count. I've had the pleasure of racing, the Baja Rally a couple years ago, 3 years ago now. October will be 3 years, and then the Sonora Rally on the mainland. But so it really kicked off like a long line of some really amazing adventures. But yeah, I went down there with like 10 other guys, and we broke up into kind of like an A and B group pretty quickly, because I was pretty much the only one on a big bike. And there was another guy, Mark Forwalter, who's from Northern Cal, and he kind of tagged along with me. He didn't want kind of the gnarly single track experience, and he was more up for, the more, gravel road and easy type of 2-track that we had for myself and the big bikes. And so we were paired up, and I think it was like day 4 maybe. We'd gone down from the border through Tecate and down over to Mike's Sky Rancho, and down to Alfonsina's at Gonzaga Bay, then over to Catavina. And so the next day we made our way up from Catavina up to El Rosario, and we got in to El Rosario probably about 4:30, pretty early. And we were eating lunch or dinner at Mama Espinosa's, really famous restaurant there, and one of the only places with Wi-Fi. And I was so incredibly exhausted and dehydrated that at that point, like right when I was done with my dinner, I looked over in the corner and I said to Mark, I said, I could literally just like go curl up in that corner and go to sleep right now. And he goes, yeah, we better go back to the hotel. So we walked back to the Cactus Inn, I think it's called. And I took a shower and I filled up my hydration pack with some bottled water. And I got into bed like 6 p.m. and just started drinking water, fell asleep. I slept for 12 hours the next day. So yeah, I was exhausted and dehydrated and all that anyways. So that day, that was the big adventure that next day, I think it was day 4 or 5. And we actually, Mark and I, we backtracked a little bit further south along the highway, and then took this road out west to the coast, and then started coming up the coast back to El Rosario. And we went past this, I remember we went past this garbage dump, and I think I was in front, Mark was pretty close behind, but pretty quickly he kind of disappeared from sight. And here's one of those lessons that we always learn, which is, the importance of keeping your buddies in your rear view mirror, at least every now and then, right? And but you know how it's wide open spaces, and we're covering so much distance, and we'd already been riding 4 or 5 days. You know how this guy rides. So I got probably a little too far in front, and so I just stopped, and I waited. But then I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. So I waited like 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, something's not right. I better turn around and go back and see what's going on. He probably just got a flat. Chances are when you hear hoofbeats, it's horses and not zebras, right? Yeah. So I turn around and I go back, and all of a sudden I see this pickup truck coming towards me, and I'm like, oh, well, okay, it's a pickup truck, no big deal. But I look in the passenger side, and it looks like Mark. He's sitting in the passenger side, and I look through the cab, and I can see what looks like his bike in the back. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? So the truck pulls up, and I like stop, like motion is, hey, stop. And the guy, the driver, and his little nephew with him, I'd recognized the night before from Espinosa's. Really nice guy and his nephew. And they say in Spanish that, hey, your friend here got hit by a truck and he got knocked unconscious. And I picked him up, and I'm helping him with his bike to go back to town. I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? So I talked to Mark, and Mark was a little out of it. He didn't remember much, kind of short-term memory loss. So I'm like, oh no. So we went back to El Rosario. We unloaded his bike, and they took us to like kind of the shade tree mechanic, and we set to work on his bike. The front wheel was kind of tacoed. It was like a Honda, I think it was like a 450 actually. like CRF 450L or something like that. Or actually, the L didn't exist. Okay. The 450L is new.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. I'm like, Mark, what happened? He goes, well, near as I can tell, I came around a corner and I was hugging the inside line, and another truck was coming the other way, and he slammed on his brakes, I slammed on mine, and I hit the front of his truck pretty hard, enough to damage like the grill. He kind of had one of those cattle guard things. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think he cracked a rib and stuff. So I'm like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Like, what can we do? He's like, no, I'm fine. I just need some water. I just need to rest. So we spent like the rest of the day trying to fix his bike, and we realized we needed a wheel. So we got the guy on the phone in Spanish to call around, and he called up to this bike shop up in San Quintin, about an hour north. And they had an extra wheel, a Honda wheel. You know, Hondas are really popular in Baja. And so I put him on the back of my bike, and we rode up to San Quintin and to get this wheel, and then back to El Rosario to put it on. And this shade tree mechanic helped us. Such nice people down there. It's just amazing, you know, to see that. And you're like, why are these people so nice? And then you realize, like, it's not just that one guy. Like, we kept, you know, when you go to Baja, you just meet people like that everywhere you turn, because just that's how they are. Everyone down there is just really, really good people. And so that was really special to, you know, be in need and be vulnerable, and to just have, you know, regular people stop and be so willing to help you out. It was really astonishing. And we ended our day. We ended up, you know, getting back on the road from El Rosario north. We just took the highway directly. We skipped the rest of the dirt that day. We ended up in Pirates Cove in Colonet. It's this hotel on the coast. And we finally met up with our riding mates, and like, oh my gosh, where were you? We were so worried. We had no idea where you were. And we told them the story, and, you know, we had some beers, and, you know, I had my Dos Equis, and I got my really cool picture at the Pirates Cove Hotel, holding my Dos Equis, looking like the most interesting man in the world.
Nice.
It was just an amazing story of one of those, you know, really long days. And, you know, how many weekend warrior trips have you had that ended up like that, with, you know, just switch the names, switch the injuries, but still add in the dehydration and the hunger and the hangry and all that. You know, we've all seen it 100 times, but, you know, that's what I really like about what I do, what we do in adventure bikes. You know, I always say there's three things I like. Just riding a bike is fun, especially off-road. The places you get to see are amazing, places most people never get to see. And then thirdly, the people that you meet riding, either the ones you're riding with or the people that you meet along the way, are really exceptional type of people that you're never going to meet in your everyday course of life. And you know, that's very enriching. It makes things a lot more more interesting. But that's, you know, what they say, that cliche, you know, it's all part of the adventure. You know, that's what you look back on, those moments of adversity and trials, is really kind of what made the trip, you know.
Yeah. I've been a lot of those same places that you're describing. That I think that bar or cantina in Catavina is pretty legendary.
At the mission.
In the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Yeah.
And I think what contributed to the dehydration that day when we got to El Rosario was the tequila we had at the Mission Inn at that bar the night before. And then to be able to go back there years later as part of the Baja rally, which actually, that's interesting enough, where I met Kyra and Justin, you know, mutual friends.
Yeah. And Mao, so I met Mao through the Baja rally. I mean, he's kind of they call him Mr. Baja, you know, because he knows all the places down there. And he's with what's the name of his Lost in Baja is his company. Yeah, that he does there, and he does really good stuff.
But that was such an amazing trip, because it started off a whole series of these experiences that, you know, make you realize these places you go, they're never like you expected they would be, you know. And in many ways, they're so much better than you ever thought or you ever imagined. You're like, I had no idea that Baja was this cool, and this is such a well-kept secret. You know, I joke that, yeah, you know, riding in Baja is so dangerous. And last time I went, they cut my head off twice, which is a joke. I still have my head. But, you know, the biggest dangers down there is just, you know, another car, you know, coming over the hill or around the corner, or maybe a cow or a donkey in the road, you know. So we gotta keep it speed.
Yeah, that's one of the liberating things down there is that there's no rules really, you know. Like you feel it's
funny too.
Ironic that you feel much more free.
It is like we're from the land of the free and the home of the brave, yet in many ways when you ride in Baja you realize how truly free it is there. It's like, wow, that's interesting. You know, you ride on the beach in Mexico and people smile and they wave. You know, in the United States, they call 911.
Yep, that's true. True story, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Eric, so much for being on the podcast. We're definitely going to have you on again. It's been wonderful chatting with you. And thank you for your time this evening.
My pleasure.
So when we're riding with another person, there's always that question of, do we use comms? Do we not use comms? Does it help? Is it a distraction? Does it take away from the ride? Does it add to the ride? Does it create safety? And we're going to talk about some of those questions with David, who is the brand manager for UClear, brand manager of North America. And we're going to talk about some of those issues and dip into his vast knowledge on comms. So I'm here with the North American brand manager for UClear Digital Helmet Audio, and David, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Nathan. Glad to be here. I understand you have some questions about the new UClear products, and I'm here to answer those questions.
Yeah, just talk a little bit first about why comms in helmets are important. Like, a lot of us have ridden, and maybe people haven't experienced that. Talk about why they're important and what effect it has on your ride.
Okay, yeah, that's no problem. So when we look at what customers are asking for and why they want communication, comms, and other features that go with a product like ours, you're going to get about as many answers as there are riders. However, we know the patterns and we know what the majority of the people are looking for. And oddly enough, no matter what feature we put into the market, still today, the number one thing that people are looking for is high quality sounding music. Number two is going to be the connectivity that you get by speaking with your fellow riders or on a phone call with that spouse or that office that you need to stay connected with while you're trying to squeeze in a ride. Oddly enough, I fall in that same category. Years ago, before I worked for UClear, I purchased a UClear at my local Yamaha dealership because my wife is on call and needed to be able to get a hold of me if I took a motorcycle ride. So in order for me to be able to get my rides in and get my throttle therapy, I bought a UClear so that she could reach me while I was riding. Eventually that led to me meeting someone from UClear, becoming friends, and me bothering them until they gave me a job, and here I am today. So, you know, like a lot of riders, there's one thing that draws me to comms, but then I discover there's a whole world of benefits with those comms. And some of that additional things would be safety. So with UClear, we like to say that we're all about communication, sound, and safety. We want to keep you connected. We want to make sure that you've got great audio and sound to listen to. And also safety features is one of the primary objectives of our comm systems. Primarily, number one is warning each other on a trail or on the road about any hazards, whether it be anything from a speed trap to that log in the road, or a section in the middle of hard pack that you come across, all of a sudden you got 6-inch deep sand. Especially riding with new riders or children, nothing improves your safety, in my opinion, more than having the experienced rider be able to describe and coach. The second one, and specific to our Motion Infinity system, is the crash detection and alert system. You know, that's a game changer. We've saved a lot of riders with that. And that the short story there, or the shortest way I can explain that, is that if you have a significant impact, it detects that, and then, you know, if you're unable to respond, or you basically you can't respond, it will send out a phone call, text message, email to your emergency contacts, letting them know what's going on and exactly what your GPS location is, a list of nearby hospitals. That all happens at 30 seconds, and there's no subscription fee. We chose to have no subscription for that because it's a part of our mission to improve rider safety with our products. Does that answer, you know, most of what you were looking for there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that's I can imagine a peace of mind, you know, like being a dad and being a husband, you know, I can definitely feel, you know, how much they care about me and they worry about me, and yeah, having that peace of mind is just one thing. You know, when you were mentioning about giving a heads up for down the road, I was going to mention checkpoints in Mexico would be on that when we were down in Baja, and we wanted to give a heads up to the guys behind this military checkpoint up here, but yeah.
There's just so many, there's countless situations. For me, you know, I live in Idaho. I would do a lot of off-road riding, and I've got kids. And kids, you know, tend to start off with off-road riding, you know, no license required. So for me, I can tell you that my time at the track with my kids and my time riding some fairly technical trails in the mountains are significantly less stressful and safer by being able to just talk to them in a normal voice. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I distinctly remember my father yelling, "Jump over that hill, jump over that hill," as loud as he could yell. And I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And I face planted and just jacked up my face, the motorcycle, everything. And he ran over and said, "Didn't you hear me yelling, do not try to jump over that hill?" And that's just not what I heard. Okay. So with my son, I can see him heading directly at a mud bog at full speed, and I can say, "Calvin, mud bog, slow down, pick your line." I can say it in a normal voice. These are just some of the examples where, for me, I have love for my own product. It's changed and improved the way that we ride. Some recent developments in helmet comms in general is going to be the mesh intercom. That's the type of intercom where the system is constantly trying to reconfigure itself to keep you connected at all times, and it automatically reconnects whenever you are back within range, so that there's less fiddling and less worrying by the customer on how to stay connected. It's just doing it for you consistently. We've seen Cardo and Senna, our main competitors, develop mesh intercom, and also UClear has developed mesh intercom. We call it Dynamesh. It's slightly different. We based it on Bluetooth 5, and that gives us some more bandwidth and power and the ability to bring in other units that are non-mesh without losing our mesh network. But what that boils down to really is just ease of use and less fiddling around for the rider. It keeps you connected any way that it possibly can. All of those things get into the ease of use, the connectivity just working better than it used to work. And at this point, I know for us, we're moving into providing mesh intercom at lower and lower prices. In fact, this month, we launched a product in the Motion series that delivers mesh intercom for 4 riders for $169. And so riders will be interested to know that little by little, that mesh intercom that everybody wants, but typically costs you over $300, is becoming more common and less expensive to deliver to the market. So for riders who are really shopping and they know the difference between those intercoms, that's good news for the industry.
Nice, nice. Well, great. Well, thank you for being on the podcast, David, and just for, you know, sharing your immense knowledge of comms with us. And yeah, we'll see you down the road.
Thank you, Nathan. It's been a good time talking to you, and I look forward to seeing the review in your magazine. I've heard nothing about it yet. They didn't consult me in any way, so we're just as anticipating reading that as anybody listening to this podcast.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, David.
Okay, take care, Nathan.
Take care.
So the September-October issue of ADVMoto Magazine is out, and Justin is back here with me, and he's just going to give us a quick sneak peek on what you guys can find in the magazine this month.
Yeah, hello. So we've got a review of the KTM 390 Adventure, which has been long awaited by many people. There's been reviews out already of the bike, but this one is pretty cool because it was done by Kyra, who is of smaller stature, and I think it gives it a little bit better perspective for average riders or below average riders in terms of size on what they can expect from that bike. I also had the chance to ride it, and I kind of injected a little bit of my opinion, but so that's in there. There's also a review of Garnet's SG12 boots and a review of the new Moto Reckless 80-liter revolvers, and then there's a really cool ride report by JM about a non-stop trip on the backcountry discovery routes. He did all of the available backcountry discovery routes and kind of interconnected them and was able to tell us that tale of what he experienced along the way and how motorcycling and adventure motorcycling has changed over the years, both with accessibility and then also with the kind of people that are utilizing those trails, ATVs, UTVs, side-by-sides, whatever you want to call them. So yeah, it's kind of a peek behind the curtain of what's going on in the adventure motorcycling world, and all that is in the September-October issue of the magazine.
Nice. Thanks, Justin. Yeah, so wherever magazines are sold or online at adventuremotorcycle.com, you can check out the issue. Thanks, Justin.
Yep, thank you.
So that wraps up this week's episode of ADVMoto Magazine podcast. Thank you for joining me and taking the time out of your day to listen. Wherever podcasts are posted or YouTube videos, we do a video version of this as well, so you can listen there. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you if you have ideas for future episodes or future guests or topics. Reach out to us at podcast@adventuremotorcycle.com, and on adventuremotorcycle.com on the website. That's our official website for ADVMoto, and you can go on there and see show notes for this episode and past episodes, as well as subscribe to the magazine. So you can always get the print issues like the September-October one that we talked about wherever magazines are sold, or if you subscribe on the website, you can get access to all the back issues, the back catalog as well, which is pretty cool. So thank you again, and as always, see you down the road.